Why is it so hard to hear what your body is trying to tell you? We have more wellness information, more holistic health information, and products and money being spent now than ever in history. So, why are women still struggling? Last week, we talked about the idea that symptoms that we experience are communication from the body instead of those symptoms being a signal that something is wrong with us. So that raises another question, which is if our bodies are talking to us, why aren't we able to hear them? Why don't we know what they're trying to tell us? Hi, my name is Jessica Graham Robinson, and I am the owner and founder of Sacred Wisdom Wellness, which is a holistic health space for you to learn and grow and heal and live in rhythm with all things that are good for us. Live in rhythm with God, with nature, and with the way that our bodies were designed to live. So, why is it so hard if our bodies are communicating with us, if we're constantly why are people constantly confused about what to do? Why are we so in the dark? That's the question. So I think the biggest piece is that modern life conditions that we live in teach us to override ourselves. And we're all taught that at a pretty young age. And then as we get older, we just fall right in line with whatever's going on in the culture, what we've been primed for our whole lives, which is to disregard the cues that our bodies are giving us. And I know this is going to sound a little bit, this might be a little bit off putting for some people, but as I have gotten older and my relationship with God and with the Bible has gotten deeper, I I see that the stories, so many of the stories in the Bible are teaching us, are showing us and teaching us about how there's really two different ways to go. We can go the way that God has laid out for us, which is where we are provided for. Not that we don't have to do our part, not that there's not work, not that there's not hardship, but that we there's a path lined up and lined out for us. Aligned. There's a path laid out for us. That's the word I'm looking for. And when we look around in our external world, the natural world, not necessarily like our, intimate circle, but in the bigger world, when we look around and observe the natural world, that is the order that has been laid out for us. Neither you nor I or anybody else that I know has any effect, has any say about how what time the sun comes up, what time the rhythms of things, like when spring happens, when the sun sets. These are bigger pieces that are laid out for us to follow. It's a natural way that humans have existed for as long as they have existed, as far as we know. The light is there, the sun is there in order for us to see, in order for us to live by. And when the sun goes down, it's time for us to start winding down. And when it's dark, it's really getting time to sleep. And that is such a simple thing, but it is so profound and something that we ignore as modern humans. So I said the one way. The one way is the way that's laid out for us. The other way is the one where we say, a person says, a human says, I'm going to do what I want to do. I think I know better. And that is the modern culture that we live in right now is a perfect example of that. It's the example of not doing what was laid out for us, not like it, like I can do better than that. Thanks God, but no, right? And that is the path that Cain took. That is the path that many people took in the stories of the Bible. And I'm going to say, like, that's the path that modern culture is going. And so, in living in a way that's aligned is definitely pretty countercultural. When you're aligned with God, when you have that connection, that deep connection with God, with your own body that is this vessel for spirit, with the earth, these beautiful rhythms and the plants and the celestial beings and all these things that have been laid out for us, to set those aside completely and say, like, nah, I'll do what I think I'd rather stay up until all hours of the night. I would rather get artificial light. I would rather eat genetically modified food. I would rather, like all these things. I remember when I was I'm a Generation X gal, and I remember being in elementary school, and we got these things called weekly readers, where every week we'd get this little, it was like, a newspaper kind of, but in color. And it was, very tiny. And it had all kinds of science-y and worldly things in it. At the time, I thought, it was just something cool. I didn't look at it as propaganda or grooming, indoctrination, but now I do. Now I see very clearly all of these pieces that were laid out for us to follow. And that's not the laying it out that God does. That was the laying it out that society did, because some people chose before us to lay out a path that served someone's agenda, a path that was going away from the one that was already laid out for us. So my point is here, let me get back to what I was saying. We've been groomed. Oh, the weekly reader. So the weekly reader, I remember as a kid reading some of the things. We would read them as a class, and I remember hearing some of these things, science things about things literally about the kinds of things that we're seeing now, the kinds of things that most people take for granted now is like, that's just, normal. That's science. That's progressive, life. That's us like getting ahead. That's good, right? But it's not. And even then, I was able to see that this is crazy. People shouldn't be able to splice genes. People shouldn't be trying to play God. I feel firmly about that. And I'm not going to go out and tell other people what they should or shouldn't be doing, but I feel clear that that is not the way. We don't need to be cloning things. We don't need to be living these lives that are completely out of rhythm and out of sync with the way that God intended us to live. So back to this bigger picture, the idea here is that modern life conditions us to override ourselves, override what is the natural progression of things. So if you're living connected to society, to culture and mainstream life, the way that modern life goes, We are taught to push through exhaustion, to push through pain, to stay productive, to make other people comfortable, but not to really stay in touch with our bodies, not to listen. We're taught to eat at certain meal times at school, not to eat when your body is hungry. And there's so many things you can point to in the school system that really sets us up for this. But it goes deeper than just the school system, because it it's been a part of society and our culture for so long now that it's not just there, it's everywhere. So the thing is, so a lot of people, a lot of women and men together are searching for answers, because they're coming to a point where they're realizing that the modern medical system is not really bringing them good solutions. That after spending time seeing specialists and going to multiple doctor visits and having procedures and even taking different medications, that they're not getting better. They're just putting off things. They're just quelling a symptom for a little bit of time, and then maybe something else shows up. And so they're looking for answers. But the issue is that we have so much information that it's really overwhelming. It's not it's not really hopeful. It's not bringing us the help. It's not bringing people the help that they need, because they're drowning in information. Women are scrolling through social media at night looking for solutions to their sleep problems, their hormone problems, their fatigue, their like perimenopause, transitional times. Um, and just the fact that as we get to a certain age, so many women are struggling with the fact that they don't feel like themselves anymore in their own bodies, in their own lives, the way that they're showing up, the way that they're feeling when they wake up in the morning, and also the way that they feel when they look at themselves in the mirror, who they're seeing. It's like, this isn't me anymore. What happened? How do I get back there? So, scrolling, staying up late scrolling is not going to be the answer. But the problem is, there's so much different information out there. It's drowning people. We're like, it's like the fire hydrant hose, rather than, just a light little stream. So people are watching podcasts, people are Googling things, people are buying book after book and chasing different experts and taking supplements and like looking at different protocols and different fad diets. And anxiety is increasing, burnout is increasing, depression and disconnection is increasing. So I feel like it's pretty obvious that more information isn't the thing that's going to solve these issues. One of the things that is learning how to listen, learning how to cultivate a different relationship with yourself. And that is going to mean being countercultural. That's going to mean saying no to things before you can say yes to things. So before you even know where you're going, what you're going to do, who you're going to see, like before you even put a plan together, the first thing is to find space, to make time for yourself, to be quiet, to be in your own thoughts. It means go to bed without watching television or without scrolling on your phone in bed. It means not scheduling every moment. And I know that that's tough for a lot of people, especially if you have young kids. It's very hard to find that time. But you can find a few moments. There are times when those kids are sleeping or pacified for a moment, for you to find those little moments where, instead of, this is the choice, instead of going to do some work in the house, or catch up on something, or scroll, that you take those times when they're quiet looking at a book, or maybe even when they're watching something appropriate, that you take some time to reconnect with yourself. And the more that you do this and you cultivate this relationship and the quiet, so it's like you reform your relationship and your trust in yourself and your body as you begin to make choices that line up with nature, with God, that line up, right, in a big way. So some things that can help us, I already mentioned a couple, but another might be really allowing yourself to recalibrate to the circadian rhythm. So being aware of and taking part in sunrise, sunset, even noon, right? Noticing and being part of, like, what's going on in the world, the natural world, not the internet world, not the global world. And as we do those things, we begin to readjust, we begin to feel different, and as we make that time for ourselves and we start to listen, we start to hear things, like we start to notice, like not literally hear things, but in a knowing, feeling way, we start to feel things about it. It might be like what we're eating, or just what we're doing with ourselves. Like, you start to know and pay attention to the fact that you know that something is a good choice or a bad choice. It's a yes or a no. That's what your body is wanting. And sometimes there will definitely always be times where we override those choices, or override what your body is wanting. That we're human, we're not perfect, we're going to make mistakes. So there will be times when your body says, no, don't have those potato chips, and then you do it anyway. There will be times when your body says, you need to go to bed early tonight, and you stay up past midnight. And as long as those aren't the norm, like as long as we're not doing that more than not, as long as we're beginning to cultivate, that rhythm of listening, and, it's okay that we're not perfect. It's okay that we make some bad choices sometimes. We just have to get better at making them more of the time, making the good choices more of the time. So we're listening and we're honoring, just like we're honoring God's order of things when we live by the seasons, when we live, right? Like, it's as simple also as eating. One thing is as simple as eating with the seasons. Just to tell a story about tonight or today, I made a food, and I remember, like, as I was thinking about it, I was thinking, like, what do I want to eat? What would be yummy? And then, or what should I make based on what I have? And then I heard inside of myself, what does my body want? What do I need? What is a yes for me? And there's in different times, there's like lots of different options. It's not always that there's just one right thing. but I decided to take some lamb out of the freezer, some ground lamb, and I decided to that I wanted to do some spices that were seasonal and yummy. And so I ended up making lamb meatballs with some cilantro, because right now for me, I'm in summer and it's really been very hot lately. And so I used cilantro and I used fennel and I used some other spices for digestion, like garam masala, Indian spices, and onion from the garden, and garlic, and what else? Some salt. My point is that felt right for me. And those spices, specifically the cooling ones like fennel and cilantro, were, I knew would be good for me, like they, to support me at this time of the year. And that's really important. And then I like had some lettuce from the garden, again, like seasonal stuff. And that's really important when we're making choices for ourselves. It's like the same way that you would make the right choice for a season of life. For a toddler, you would make a different choice than you would for an adult. Or, like there's so many we go through so many different stages, and different things become appropriate at different times. Just like that, we have the seasons and we have our ages, as we grow. And in Ayurveda, there's 4 different stages in life, and mostly we talk about 3 different stages. The kapha stage is the stage where when we're really young, and up until um, up until around past adolescence, but somewhere in that period. So you've got like around puberty-ish, I guess I would say. Like there's the period where we tend to like carry a little more fat, especially babies, and but we're hardier in a sense because we have that more kapha and more resilient in a lot of ways. And then the stage from that point on through in about 50, that's the pitta stage of life. And the pitta stage of life is where we're all about doing things, doing what we love, acquiring, working hard. It's like summer. It's that production part of our life. And then at 50, we have the vata time of life. And this is the time where we're less resilient, or we can be if we're not taking care of ourselves. And we tend to, that this is the time of life where you naturally be, if you haven't already, or if you are, like, connect with spirit in a deeper way, that it's really, because we're more in touch with air and ether, and because of that, we need to do things that are grounding and keep us more resilient. So, and during the middle part, the pitta time, we need to do things that are cooling and also grounding, so that we're not just too fiery and get too passionate or like burn ourselves out. And so for a lot of people, what happens is we stay in that pitta season, or we try to stay in that pitta season as we move past, like as we start to move into that middle age transition of life. If we're continuing to think productivity and, go, 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 then we're really going to wear ourselves out, no resilience, losing immunity, like as we move into the vata years, because that is a time that we need to slow down. And so that is just a little bit about how these pieces fit together, and how, like, when we live in a way that is aligned with the natural rhythm of things, that we will be more resilient, that we will have more goodness and just a better life, and be able to enjoy life more, because we're not going to be weighed down by the bigger symptoms that will happen if we don't listen. So, and again, nobody's perfect. We're always going to make these mistakes, but the point is to learn, so that is to catch ourselves and to learn to do better, so that we're not continually fighting ourselves, we're not burning ourselves out, and we're getting wiser with age, and we're living that wisdom instead of ignoring it, instead of continuing as we were taught to cover up, to ignore, to disconnect, and to just push through. At some point, we have to unlearn that, and we have to come back to the listening, so that when we have these symptoms, we're going to be able to understand. We're listening. It's just your body talking, and we can go, ah, yes, I will have the fennel and the cilantro instead of the like the hot peppers and the whatever. Like, heating things aren't going to be the best during summer, and so there's all these different ways, like depending on where you are this day, this time in your life, this season, all of the things, your relationships, your work, your inner life, all of these pieces, wherever you are, that is going to dictate what is needed. And when we know that, when we can hear that, are we going to respond in the appropriate way or not? And that's what creates integrity, and that's what deepens our trust in ourselves. That's what true, like, taking responsibility looks like as an adult, really taking responsibility, and not and making those choices for yourself that support your health and well-being, and help you to live that life that you want to keep living. So this is I want to invite you. This is where we're gonna start to round it off here and say, like, I want to invite you to the workshop that I'm doing called What If Your Symptoms Make Sense? And that is on Friday, June 12th. And I put the link in the notes in the description here, so you can scroll down and click that link to sign up for the workshop. And we're going to go deeper into these questions and have this rich conversation about how your symptoms make sense for you, and hopefully help you to begin asking better questions and learning how to listen, and learning how to begin that journey of listening and learning from yourself, and learning how to walk that path of getting wiser, of making sense of your symptoms, and of making those right choices for yourself. So I look forward to talking to you if you join live, and if not, there will be a replay. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching or listening, wherever you're tuning in from. And I hope to see you soon. Check out all my links. Please hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Much love.